Hello and welcome to the presentation on productivity tools for Civil 3D sheet production. My name is Brian Lewandowski. I am with CTC Software. I'm the product manager there, and I'm going to be giving you that presentation today. So productivity tools with Civil 3D, what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about a lot of the shortcomings in Civil 3D. A lot of those tasks in there can be quite tedious with the native tool sets. And so what CTC has is a set of tools that really take those areas that you spend a lot of time on and make it quite a bit faster. And the focus today is specifically on sheet production. So sheet creation, laying out sheets, annotation, tables and legends, all of that stuff that goes into sheet production. So I'm going to be talking about some tools today from the SIM project suite. This is a suite of daily productivity tools for all Civil 3D users. And as I mentioned, it's about taking tedious tasks and automating them in ways that make sense. It really ties in with dynamic workflows you might be used to, and it's compatible with the five latest versions of Civil 3D. And what you see down there is, in fact, the ribbon of the SIM project suite installs just right in Civil 3D. And we're going to be focusing on the right half of the ribbon today, which are tools all around sheet and plan production. So the first tool I want to talk about is one called Label Genie, a fairly recent tool, recent addition to the SIM project suite. And what it does is it performs automatic labeling and annotation across many drawings at once. You can insert Civil 3D label types, AutoCAD label types. You can make it relative to layouts and viewports. You can even save different labeling scenarios out to templates so you can quickly repeat those things, right? So a certain set of hatches that you always apply MTEX to, maybe line and curve labels or surface spot labels that you always attach to certain surfaces or feature lines or polylines, you name it. We can save all of that into templates for quick repeat. Another tool called Data Wizard. This allows you to create project-specific legends or QTOs. So a lot of times we're dragging in kind of a one-size-fits-all or just kind of a canned legend, and then we take the time to manually kind of trim those up to make them work, or we just leave that in there and we have a legend that doesn't accurately represent all of our sheets. With Data Wizard, we can scan multiple drawings at once, or even just limit it to one sheet or viewport and automatically generate a legend for that. It'll account for AutoCAD and Civil 3D objects, and much like Label Genie, you can save templates so you can quickly repeat these different legend types. Whether you're doing sheet-specific legends or one project-wide legend, Data Wizard will handle it. And the same workflow works great for project-wide QTO. You want to count up multiple different objects across multiple different drawings and then export to Excel. Data Wizard will do that as well. And the third tool I want to talk about is called Sheet Generator. It's about creating plan and profile sheets. Similar to the native tool set, you might be familiar with it. They're called view frames. And while those are handy to create plan and profile sheets, the big limitation with them is as soon as you create them, they're not dynamic to your project, right? And you have to often create sheets at perhaps 30% through design. There's a lot of changes that can happen in that design. And many times they can push and affect the sheet layout itself. Normally you have to recreate all those sheets. You have to manually update on those on your own. What Sheet Generator will do is update all your sheets, including your viewports, profile views, sheet set fields, match lines, north arrows, you name it. It will do all that for you across dozens or even hundreds of sheets, right? So if things shift based on a stationing change in the project or the extents of the project change, whatever it might be, Sheet Generator will turn what could be hours or days of work into a matter of minutes. So I'm going to jump into Civil 3D and show you how some of these work. First one we'll start with is Label Genie. Now I've got a couple different project scenarios we're working with here. Some of them may be project types you don't necessarily use, but the application is similar, obviously. So what I'm going to start with here is a geometry plan or a site plan for some residential work. And what I want to be able to do is lay out my line and curve labels on these lot lines along the right-of-way. And normally we're picking and clicking away on all this stuff, and then things shift or change and we have to do it. So let me show you that first example of that with Label Genie. So here's that sim project suite I mentioned. If I click on Label Genie, it launches a easy to use interface. I'm going to choose the current drawing. I'm going to label line and curve labels. I'm going to anchor them to polylines, and specifically I'm going to anchor them to polylines on this layer. Okay, I chose those side lot lines, those cyan lines. And so I can reference a set of polylines, any kind of many different object types, by layer, by style, by name, and it's going to insert line and curve labels across all of these at once. With segments, I'm going to do both lines and curves. And then finally on the formatting tab, what styles do I want to choose? These read right from my drawing. Okay, so we're not going to create any kind of proprietary label objects or anything like that with this tool set or any of the tools in the Sim Project Suite. It reads your templates, your styles, your layers, and so on. So I'll click Add to this. It's going to give me a confirmation, 121 labels. I'll say yes, and boom, they all come in. Okay. Now you've got different labeling scenarios. Perhaps along the right-of-way, we want to use a different label style. Okay, just grab whatever layer those objects are on, change your style. Let's say you want it to be distance, and then click Add. And all those labels come in automatically as well. Now perhaps you wanted them on the other side, right? This is the beauty of Label Genie. If your design changes, if the labels that you just created don't look quite right, or they need to shift around, or you want to change a style or a setting on them, Label Genie doesn't just create labels in this way, it updates them as well. So I can control the flip state, for example. I'm going to flip all of these like this, but you see there's other examples about flipping towards and away from the centroid. I'm going to hit Add. It's going to find 142 labels. This time it's going to update them. I'll hit yes to this, and now all of those flip to the other side. Okay. What Label Genie can do, there's tons of different things we can label. Let me take something totally different like assemblies, right? There's no assembly labels. It's nice to be able to keep these straight with little labels on them, but there's really no way to do that. And so AutoGrader, or excuse me, Label Genie will handle this as well. Let's grab MText, assemblies, but notice all the other label or the anchor objects we can choose here. AutoCAD and Civil 3D object types. And in fact, we've got a big update to Label Genie coming out. This list of anchor objects is going to be doubled so that just about any anchor object you can think of will be in here. I'm going to anchor MText to assemblies. Then I can choose what information to read from those assemblies. I'm going to take the assembly name. Okay. We don't need to make it annotative. We'll make the height 0.2. Choose a display width of 5. And then all kinds of offset options. We'll do a vertical offset of -3. And we can turn the background mask off. Okay. But it's MText, so a lot of those properties that you are concerned with show up here. What layers are going to land on, okay, the orientation, all those kinds of things. I'm showing you one example here with assemblies, but you can do it for all sorts of things. I think I've got a layer filter on here. Yep, let's turn that off. Notice it told me there's nothing to label. It's because I was looking for a layer that assemblies weren't on. There we go, 8 labels at once. Boom, everything comes in. Okay, this is making MText with embedded AutoCAD fields in it, so it's dynamic. So as the name of that assembly changes, the name of, or that label itself will change. So If this is a different piece of text in there, simply refresh the labels update, okay? So many areas like this all across your drawings. Let's look at another example. And let's make it more complicated this time. I want to label 2 drawings at once, and in each of those drawings I have multiple layouts, and I want to label per those layouts, okay? Furthermore, some of my information in these layouts, in these sheets, they don't live in this drawing, but they're coming through in data shortcuts or in XREFs. This is how a sheet would normally be set up, right? You've got information coming in from multiple drawings. So you can label in base files or model files like this, or you can go into sheet files and label objects that are brought in through XREF for data shortcut. This is a grading plan. We're going to take that same project scenario and we want to add surface spot elevations and slope labels. So I'm going to run Label Genie again. This time we're going to choose the current drawing. We're going to choose an additional drawing. We'll browse out to it. It'll be this one right here. It's this other drawing I have open, in fact. Okay, we want to include the XREFs now. And instead of labeling all of model space, we're going to label layouts. And we could do all layouts, or we could actually limit them to the layouts that exist in those drawings. So lots of detailed control on this. And many drawings and layouts can be incorporated at once. I'm doing a couple here. We're going to have 4 different layouts, right? But what about those long transportation projects? You might have 50 or 60 layouts. You can do all of that at once with this tool. Okay, we're looking at surface spot elevation labels, but again, look at all these different label types we can add. With that update I mentioned, we've got a lot more label types coming out soon. We're going to attach these to feature lines, and we're going to put these on feature lines that are of the layer. Say you don't know the exact layer name. You can put asterisks before and after and just say, you know, grab me layers with the word lots in it. And I can even click the check button, and it'll check in my source drawings. Did it find those objects? Yes, 122 feature lines in each drawing. Okay, we're going to anchor this to the vertices of these feature lines. We're going to do it to all the points except the midpoints here. Now these are surface spot elevations, so they need a surface from which to read elevations. Well, instead of doing layer filtering, I can do, say, object name filtering and say, grab whatever surface has the text FG or finish grade in it. And then on the formatting tab here, these are just surface spot elevations, so there's no data contents up here to work with, but I do have my styles to choose. So I'll go ahead and choose that and hit Add Update Labels. It's going to scan through those 2 drawings and layouts and figure out what should be created. Turns out it's 519 labels. Do I want to proceed? I'll say yes to this. So these are surface spots. Think about the work involved to do this, right? You would be clicking 522 times to insert every one of those in each and every drawing. And we just did it at once across 4 layouts and 2 drawings at once. I said it was per layout, right? So in this drawing, here's the whole project, but it was only reading the viewports on these 2 layouts. That's why you see only this upper half labeled. Now, if I jump to this other drawing, notice all of these are labeled, and it was the bottom half of the project. Now, like I'd shown you with the line and curve labels, everything is dynamic. Say the grading plan changes, and the high and low points along these lot lines need to shift, you simply run it again. Maybe the appearance or the style on those labels aren't what you want. Like maybe we want a rotation on this, 45 degrees. Click Add. I remembered my previous settings, so all I have to do is change the rotation value, and now it's going to update 519 labels. And all of those have a rotation on them now. Okay, we'll do one other thing with Label Genie, and then we'll move on to another tool, and that is to label surface slope labels. We're going to attach them to those same feature lines. We're going to attach them to segments, and then we're going to do a percent label. So we want slope labels on all of these grade segments in our lot lines. I'm going to click Add. $463 labels. We'll click Yes to that, and then we'll see those slope labels come in as well. Okay, so different slope labels. Same thing again, right? Picking and clicking on each and every one of those. I just did what would probably be an hour's worth of work, 2 hours worth of work. I did it in about 5 minutes. And I was talking you through it, so. All right, let's move on. Data Wizard. Data Wizard is the tool that automates legends, that automates QTO. The example I want to show you here is one around creating sheet-specific legends. But as I mentioned, you can do project-wide legends as well. And the reason custom legends are important is because a one-size legend often requires tedious kind of deletion or additions to it to make it match your project. Or worse yet, you have a legend that just has information in it that doesn't exist in your project. Or even worse, stuff that is in your project doesn't exist in your legend. So wouldn't you want those legends to match? Basically scan what's in your design and then build a legend just from that. There's no way to do this natively, so that's one of the great things about this tool. I'll run Data Wizard. Right off the bat here, we get to choose our drawing source. We're going to choose the current drawing. And then we're going to limit this to a layout. We're going to choose Site Plan 1. And I'm going to choose this viewport right here. I'm going to go to the next tab. Here's the list of the object types we can scan for. I've got AutoCAD and Civil 3D object types of just about every variety in here. This is an existing condition sheet for my topo survey. So I've got survey points, survey figures, and hatches. Now, which survey points and which figures it's going to include, there's all kinds of filtering options, be it through layering, be it through raw descriptions of points that you can use to control exactly what items show up in your legends. Even stuff like this, like exclude frozen layers. That would certainly be important if I'm not showing my ground shots. I certainly wouldn't want those to appear in my legend. Okay, we'll hit the next tab. On this tab, we see the results of the scan. So under my survey points, it's finding 3 unique point types here: signage, trees, and a catch basin. But I can pull all kinds of other information out of these objects, QTO information, any kind of tabulations you might want to do. You know, there's about half a dozen different ways to tabulate things in Civil 3D, and none of them do a good job. And none of them do more than just maybe about 10% of the object types that exist in the software. This will do all of it at once and just about any information you want from the object. So legends and QTO are a big focus, a common use for this, but any kind of tabulation you might want to do. I have a lot of customers that do tree tabulations with blocks, all kinds of different things. If I click next, here is the formatting options. What kind of capitalization? What are the size of the cells in the table I'm about to create? What about the title, the headers, all that stuff? I have control over it. And then finally, I can write this to Excel or I can write it to an AutoCAD table. In this case, I want a legend in the drawing, so I'm going to do an AutoCAD table and choose my style. Now you may have noticed as I've been going through this, there's a Save Template button down here. What this means is that at any point I can save out a Data Wizard template, and then I can reload that in a different drawing, a different project, and all those settings that I've specified throughout this wizard will all be saved to it, so I can launch it again and create a legend based on these settings, but relative to that drawing or that project. So let's click Finish here. We'll create this. I mentioned earlier, none of these tools in the Sim Project Suite create proprietary objects. Same goes right here. This is a native AutoCAD table, yet we've automated the populating of block symbology inside this column. We're reading, in this case, the layer descriptions from these objects, okay? And this stuff is relatively dynamic, meaning if something changes in my drawing, let's go ahead and do that one. So let's change, just simply freeze a layer. Okay, I froze the grass layer. And now let's actually make a change to the curb and gutter layer. So I read this from the layer description, from this layer right here. And maybe there was, I just want to notate it a little bit different. Maybe it's concrete, curb and gutter, or whatever the case may be, okay? Any of those changes you make in your drawing, you simply come back to Data Wizard, run the update table command, pick on your table. We're going to read, write this out to the same AutoCAD table, and we're going to read the settings from the table. So I'm going to hit OK, and you're going to watch as this table changes here. Okay, there's a new layer description. Okay, the grass hatching is gone now. And notice this symbology, everything's to scale. The hatch scaling, the line type scaling, the storm inlets here. Now the tree sizes vary here, so this is taking the default size from the point style, but you get the idea. Let's look at another scenario. What can we scan for? There's just about every object type in there I'd shown you. Think about M leaders you're using as callouts. Okay, so attributed blocks embedded in your M leaders, a great tool for callouts like this. A lot of times we want to tabulate the stuff, and in fact, in these M leaders, we often have descriptions or information about what that is, what that object is. Okay, if you have all these across your drawing, or maybe you don't use these because you haven't found a great way to tabulate them, you can make keynote tables if that's a common thing for you. Let me show you that. I'll run Data Wizard. It works the same way as Legends. Okay, I'm going to use this layout, and we're going to choose this viewport. Choosing the viewport not only limits what objects will show up in the legend or the table, but it'll also make sure the symbology is scaled to match that viewport. I'm going to look for multi-leaders. And in this case, I'm going to scan for the graphic. So that's just the symbol you see there. And then you might have noticed this earlier, there's an additional data option in there. And what that is custom attribute information you might have in your objects. I said these were attributed blocks. If I jump into here, it's picking up on those custom attributes I have in those multi-leaders. Now this would work for standard blocks or attributed block multi-leaders. And I can choose information from those attributes to be included in my table. I could use Civil 3D user-defined properties. I could use GIS object data. I could use Civil 3D property sets. Basically, any information you might have in your drawings, we can read it, we can tabulate it, do anything you need with it. So I'm going to hit next. On this final screen, we've got formatting options again in here. I didn't mention before, there's sorting options, okay? And what we're going to do is create a table. Here's a final preview with those descriptions. They're going to come through. We're going to write this out to an AutoCAD table again. I'll hit finish. We'll drop that right down here. Okay, all that symbology comes in to scale. Okay, so whatever standards you have, layer descriptions, your styles for M leaders, Data Wizard will read and use all of that stuff. These are not styles that you have to use. I've got examples set up for this demonstration, but it'll work with any and all of your styles. This is a table style. If you want borders to show up a different way, or you don't want borders, turn it off in your table style, no problem. Okay, I mentioned the QTO. This isn't so much a sheet production thing, but it's obviously a part of the project, and I thought I'd highlight that as well. Here's a simple site plan where we want to count up a variety of blocks. We have some feature lines for curb. We've got hatching for seating, for pavement, a variety of things. If I run this again, I'm going to scan the entire drawing, and we're going to grab those blocks, feature lines, and hatches out of here. I hit next, and here I've got some of that quantity information turned on. So in this data to extract option here, I've got areas, lengths, and count, and that information is showing up here. Now this is adding up or summarizing all this data, right? So shrubs, we've got 26 of them. But there are options in here for whether you want to summarize or combine items like this, or if you want to separate them. Do you want to list each entity like a, you want to list each object, the northing and easting of it, for example. We can do separate items like this with a summary or without. And if I do that, just as an example, I'll show you what that looks like. In the blocks here, now that shrub row where it says 26, I can expand that, and my table can list each and every shrub itself. A lot of different workflows for that, but I just want to highlight that with Data Wizard we can summarize, or we can list individually all the objects we're finding. Summarize or combine, I guess, different ways to term it. We want a QTO, so we want one entry for all the shrubs. And then finally, we're going to write this out to an Excel spreadsheet. Hit finish. It's going to open up Excel for us. Here is that QTO, the count, the lengths, the areas for all those different object types. Okay. I did that on one drawing. You could do it across a dozen drawings at once. Count everything up at once, get QTOs really quickly, really easily that way. The last tool I want to talk to you about is Sheet Generator, and this deals with plan and profile sheets. Now, I mentioned in the intro, I mentioned the ViewFrames toolset. This is a native toolset that will create plan and profile sheets for you, make the layouts, viewports, and all that kind of thing. But there's this big limitation, as I said, right? Which is when your project changes, there's no way to update those sheets. You just have to delete them again, or you have to manually go update all those viewports, those north arrows on your own. This does one of two things: is it wastes a lot of time for us to do that, or it forces us to lock in and kind of stay married to a sheet layout, when it would be really nice if at any point we could simply shift our sheet layout based on any changes in our alignment or the project, or just preferences on how we want to show those sheets. So what we did is we created a whole module-based tool set that not only fully replaces the native tool set, but allows you to, at the end, also update those layouts when projects change. So I'm going to walk you through this. There's a lot of different modules to it, so I'm not going to touch on every little setting here, but you'll get the idea of how this works. I'm going to run plan view shapes. View shapes are what lays out in plan view here, which is going to represent each one of our viewports. Let's choose a starting stationing. Go right here. I'm going to specify a distance between match lines. Notice it tells me the maximum distance. This is based on the size of my, let me back up here. The size of my sheet itself. This is my sheet template. And how Sheet Generator works is it reads a rectangular block on your sheet template. That's the only requirement for Sheet Generators, that you place one of these simple blocks on here. And when we have that, we know how much we can fit on your sheet. And so with that, we're going to take that block and we're going to lay that out along our alignment here. And so based on that size, as well as my drawing scale, I know what kind of distance I have between match lines. We can tell it to align or avoid alignment vertices like PCs or PTs that are within 5 meters. I'm going to hit finish. Now lay out all those sheets, okay? Now, if that doesn't look the way you want, you can simply run it again. There was a station shift, it needed to go back like that. Click next, finish, watch this whole thing shift, okay? Shifted it back by 20, 30 meters. What these are polylines. This is what our viewports are going to be. This red rectangle, this is that one I just showed you right on your sheet template, okay? And then these are pseudo match lines, so to speak. The match lines that will actually be created will show up on your sheet. But because these are just polylines and blocks, I can move them around as I see fit. Any kind of little tweaking I might want to do to a particular layout I can do. Next, we move on to the profile views. This we actually use the native tool set to do this. So I'm not going to walk through that, but I'm just going to create my profile views. And then what we do is we provide tools to allow you to edit en masse all your profile views at once and basically kind of massage them to look the way you want. This is actually one of the big complaints from the native tool set, is that there isn't enough control on how your profile views look. It's a big limitation. In fact, it's what drives many people to not even bother with the tool set. With Sheet Generator, you have tons of control on this, and I'll show you how right here. Let's run the networks to views command. Like, let's push all of our pipe networks to all these profile views at once. We like to do this in this tool set because what it does is it only adds the pipes and structures that show up within that profile view station and elevation range. Just these few pipes. Makes a big difference with drawing performance, in fact. Okay, now that we have some of our data in our profile views, I can run adjust profiles. And there's a variety of things I can do. I'm going to grab all my views, we'll load them into here. First thing we want to do, of course, we want to align the stationing with the plan views. Okay, I choose the layer that those plan views are on. And then we have other options here. What if you wanted to add a 5-meter buffer on each profile view such that it overlapped that 5 meters from one profile view to the next? There's no way to do this natively. You can do it in here easily. And then the control of your profile view height range or the elevation range, there's really detailed control on this. First of all, I can round the range to match the major ticks or the grid lines in my profile view style. So I don't get this kind of half grid thing right here, right? Like a quarter grid. We can make sure it rounds to the nearest one. And then I can read different objects in each and every profile and then center it on the median or the highest or the lowest elevation of those objects. I can specify a standard profile view height. We'll do 20 meters in this case. And I could even do a delta up or down, maybe to accommodate for some really deep sanitary sewer manholes or something like that. I'm going to hit OK to this. And all this tool does, again, is it edits our profile views, but it does a ton of things all at once that would normally be really tedious. You'd have to do one view at a time. So I'm going to hit OK. You'll see these stations change. You'll see everything shift around. Okay, a really quick change there. Now that was quite the shift to match our plan views. So perhaps there's a pipe or structure that should show up here. This is why we made this a module-based tool set, because I can just run networks to views again, and then all those pipes and structures come in. Okay. The other thing you'll notice about Sheet Generator is that I get all my profile views and plan views at once before I even created my sheets. This allows me to really understand what I'm about to create before I even make those layouts in the first place. Now we can update them after the fact, but it's nice to be able to see these before. So one more step before we run layouts, which is to place our profile print area from our sheet, place that over our profile views. And that's a fairly simple command, but it helps us understand, again, where those profile views are going to fit within our sheets. Okay, finally, we're going to go ahead and create layouts. We're going to do plan and profile, but notice there's plan and plan. There's profile and profile, plan only, or profile only. You've seen some of these layer and block options along the way. These are just controlling which plans and profile views we're dealing with, so that if you happen to have multiple roadways in your project, multiple different sheet sets, you can control that through some simple layering. Here's all the layouts we're about to create, the station range for each one. What north arrow, what match line I'm going to use. We actually use attributed blocks for the match lines. And we auto-populate those with sheet set fields. We can even insert profile match line blocks if you have a need for that. Not something you'll find in the native tool set again, but we have that in here in case you need to do that. And then finally, which layout am I going to duplicate? So it takes a layout from the current drawing. It's going to make copies of this drawing and then duplicate that layout as many times as I tell it to for each drawing. So I'm going to tell it up to 10 layouts per drawing. There's my viewport scale. And then of course, I want to store this into a sheet set file. So we incorporate Sheet Set Manager into this as well. So I'm going to use that one here on my C drive. I'm going to click finish, and what you're going to see are these layouts be created. It'll take a few seconds. It's going to make a new drawing, and then it's going to generate new layouts for each and every one of these views that we set up already. And then finally, it loads them into Sheet Set Manager, and it opens Sheet Set Manager for me. I can double click on one of these, open up that file. It brings me right to that sheet. Okay, that's just the native Sheet Set Manager there. And here's one of my layouts. Okay, this is a standard layout. Again, nothing proprietary. Okay, but it sized all of our viewports for us. It inserted match lines in here. Now these match lines are, like I said, attributed blocks. There's actually sample files we provide with the tools. You can take these, modify these to your standard, whatever you like to do. It'll use your north arrow, whatever north arrow you have, and it'll of course rotate that north arrow. And then down here we have profile match lines I mentioned, and then in that buffer or overlap area, we can actually have an insert masking as well, so that you won't see objects beyond the match lines in profile view. All the tabs are named appropriately. All the sheet set fields are named appropriately. Now let's talk about updating, right? Changing things. This is the real meat of this tool. Everything I showed you so far, there's some bells and whistles beyond the native tool set along the way, right? But we just created the layouts. But the real power of this tool is the ability to update this stuff after the fact. Normally you're stuck. These are a bunch of static layouts, but we have control on all these through this update layouts command. And so let's go ahead and make a change. Let's say we had to shift this back again. The start of the project shifted this way again. So let's grab the plan view shapes tool. And now the stationing is to start right at 0. Okay. I'm going to hit next and finish, and then you're going to see all of these shift again. Okay. So now my project, my sheets need to start right there. And right off the bat, we're going to see if we look at our layouts, everything is off, right? The viewports are not looking where those plan views are. So we know we got a bunch of work there, okay? But here's how easy it is with Sheet Generator. You simply make the changes you want in plan view. Okay, there could have been an alignment, stationing shift, anything. You come over to your profile views, you run adjust views again. Click all of those. You'll remember your previous settings, just hit OK. Everything will shift, okay? And then run profile view shapes to make sure your views are placed in that print block such that the starting, stationing, or the ending or the middle lines up with plan and profile view. That's the what this is about here. Okay. Now everything's updated in model space here. I simply need to push this to all my sheets. So my north arrows re-rotate, my viewports update, my sheet set stationing and match line stationing updates. Okay, right, we've got, I mean, this is a small sample project, but we've got 8 different layouts here, all that would need to be deleted or manually edited. And the issue with deleting them is, right, you end up creating you end up doing a number of sheet edits. You might put some paper space tables in here with Data Wizard, that kind of stuff. You don't want to just delete that stuff. Once you create your layouts, it's nice to be able to just manage them and have them update as you need. So let me show you this final step here. We'll run update layouts. Again, we're updating plan and profile sheets. Here's some of my block and layer selections. My north arrow and match line blocks, okay? So I could actually choose to, at this point, insert a different match line block if there was a change, right? That's why we give these controls along the way, even for the updating. And then on this page, it tells me the station range, the new station range between my match lines, and then the layout name down here that it's matching up with. Now you can override these, but it does 99% of the time do a good job of matching everything up. And then finally, it's going to update all the fields in our sheet set. So I'm going to click finish. You're going to see a lot happening. It's going to move all those viewports and north arrows. It's going to rename all of these tabs. It's going to update all the sheet set fields. Let's go ahead and hit finish. And we'll see that happen here. Those viewports shifting. Match lines, it happens pretty quick. That's kind of the point, right? You don't want to waste time doing this stuff. We want the software to do it for us, okay? So here's all those updates. Updated stations, sheet references, okay? Like I said, these are attributed blocks, and within them are fields that read from the sheet set, okay? So that is Sheet Generator, and those are the 3 main tool sets that we have that are geared towards sheet production. But there's a whole lot of other tool sets in the Sim Project Suite. Check out some of our other presentations to see how those look. So if you're wondering how do you get your hands on this, it's all part of the Sim Project Suite, as I mentioned. You can download it from ctcsoftware.com. There's free trials. There's even free tools in that tool set in the Sim Project Suite that are free indefinitely. Then everything else is free for a trial period, and then licensing after that, of course. On the webpage, you can see videos, everything of how these tools work, detailed descriptions on them, basically a menu of everything that is available in the Sim Project Suite. So with that, I thank you for watching. Have a great day.